the NHL All-Star game and the players who are going to be there, more importantly, the players who are not going to be there. Everyone is up in arms about it. You've probably heard about it already. Guys like Nazem Kadri basically fighting for a last man in spot through votes from everyone else, but not included in the initial list of players going to this year's NHL All-Star game in Vegas. Sidney Crosby not there as well. Brad Marchand not there. Igor Shesterkin from the New York Rangers. Steven Stamkos not there. There's a whole list of players I can go through.
Barkov.
Yes, Sasha Barkov, who I think also has a chance of getting a last man in as well. What do you think about the fact that all of these players I just listed off, not on the initial list of NHL All-Stars?
Well, it all roots itself in this every team being represented thing, right? I mean, that's because if you're going to have as few players as they do in this 3-on-3 format, you can actually do this. I mean, the divisions have 8 teams. What is it? 3 defensemen, 7 forwards, 2 goalies per team or something. I mean, there's just not a lot of room for multiple players from multiple teams with that. But like, how many great teams are there? I mean, obviously a team like Colorado should have a few representatives. Nazem Kadri, 5th leading scorer in the league at the time the selection's being made. It's hard to imagine how the 5th leading scorer in the league isn't selected as an all-star. Like it actually really doesn't make any sense. I think Brad Marchand's in the top 10 as well. I know he's certainly Boston's leading goal scorer, point getter. I'm of the mind that you could probably do without representing every team. Like, I think that's the old school thinking. Like, it was based on sort of like the old days where the newspapers had more power and you needed to give a reason for every newspaper to come to the All-Star game and talk about it and write about your league. And I just think that the way things are covered nowadays, you can get away without having that. And, and if in this one season, there's no Arizona Coyote there, for example, or even Montreal Canadiens, teams at the very bottom of the league, I just don't think it's the end of the world. And why not showcase and highlight the players that actually, have had great years? And it's hard not to look at the NBA All-Star game. And I realize there's the All-Star weekend, really, it's not just the game. And just how so many players that aren't even selected to play show up and watch it. Obviously lots of parties and things that go with it that make that a desirable place to be, but it's such an honor to be picked. I mean, I think it's an honor to still be picked for the NHL All-Star game, but it feels a little watered down with the format. And so, I wouldn't mind seeing them go to just picking the best players. And if there's 7 teams that don't have a guy there, I don't think it's going to turn people off that much, quite honestly. And so, like, if you're in Montreal, are you tuning in to see what Nick Suzuki does? I mean, maybe.
I guess if you're a dedicated fan, but like, look, I'm based in Montreal and I almost didn't even realize that the rosters were going to be announced last week.
Right. And I'm not picking on Nick Suzuki. I'm just pointing out, though, that every team doesn't truly have an all-star every year. And so I'd like to see more of the deserving guys get there. It might never happen. The league has to take steps, whatever they are, to try to make this a place a lot of guys want to go. And it hasn't been that way in the past. I think they actually were onto something when they had the players pick the teams themselves. And obviously it was the Columbus All-Star game. I don't know what year that was. And I think there might've been some drinking going on with the guys are having fun and chirping each other. Like, I think that they have to do as much as they can to make it a desirable place to be for that weekend. I mean, and this one's in Vegas. I get it's a little more complicated. It's this COVID year, still kind of, some things are weird, but if you're having an All-Star game in Vegas, like, every player in the league should want to be there. It should be like a friggin' event.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not to say it won't be. I mean, look, we'll see how it plays out. We haven't had a raft of players pull out, but that tends to happen right as it gets closer. Let's see how it goes. But, I think there's some good stories in the All-Stars this year. I think Jack Campbell, for example, is a great sort of, for him, this is a real big mile marker, right? In what's been a really winding journey to get to just be a regular NHL player. So I think that there's those good stories, but I'd like to see, Kadri should get there. I mean, at the end of the day, his is a different road than Jack Campbell. I mean, he's been an NHL player for 10 years, but he's having this tremendous season on the other side of 30. He's in a free agent year. I mean, you can't tell me it wouldn't mean something to him to have been picked. And frankly, he should have been.
Dude, Trevor Zegras isn't there.
Right.
Trevor Zegras might have purely for talking about just on ice, he might be the most intriguing and exciting player this year. And he was not named an all-star.
Sounds like they're going to include him in the skills competition, though.
At the very least. I mean, that's
like, I think he is ultimately going to be there, but you're right. He's not going to be considered quote unquote an all-star in 2022.
That's very fair. But you bring up a really excellent point. The way we look at like the NBA All-Star weekend, you see players who aren't even all-stars, they're there. And they're also there with celebrities and personalities. It's wherever the game is, you want to be there that weekend. You want to be seen at the game or at the competition. You want to be seen. You want to be at the dunk competition. You want to be there. And the NHL, there are very much some reasons, but it's not that place. I wonder how much that plays into why some guys just don't want to go, or why some guys will just be like, you know what, I don't really want to go. I'll take whatever suspension the league gives to me after the fact for not going. Like, I'm curious to know from players generally, like why they don't want to go and why they don't want to make the All-Star game a bigger event. And obviously this year with COVID, that's a different story. But in any other year, this is an issue in terms of attendance.
Well, part of it, I think, is it's just such a grueling season. And so the guys viewed this as a chance to take either 4-day little holiday or even just 4 days at home with your family and don't do anything, staycation kind of deal. The leagues tried to address that too, though, right? I mean, they put in those bye weeks in February. And the idea essentially was that if you're an all-star, it still guarantees you a gap of time off in around that same time of the year, but still come to the All-Star game. And so the leagues make concessions that way. I know we haven't seen the schedule yet. Pretty amazing. January 17th, we're recording this.
Yeah.
And the games in February that are all being rescheduled have not been announced publicly yet. I know teams have, a version of what their schedule is probably going to look like. So the teams know, but my understanding anyway, is that there will be kind of bye weeks or small breaks in there. So that's isn't really an issue. I don't know what it is. I mean, maybe traditionally NHL players haven't been embraced the showtime element as much of what an event like this can be. I wonder, you might know it better, Julian. Don't they sometimes bring in like good 3-point shooters to do the 3-point competition who aren't actually all-stars?
Well, like
stuff like that.
There's one competition, the name for whatever reason escapes me, but there is like a particular competition where you get like a guy who's playing for a team now, someone who plays for the WNBA team in that area, and a legend from that franchise. I forget what the name of the competition is, but it's not the 3-point competition, but there's like a shot at the end where like someone has to make a shot from like half court. Like I don't know why I'm blanking on that, but there is something like that.
But what I meant is, don't they include people like in the dunk contest and stuff who aren't actually all-stars? Like they just,
if like that's props and stuff. Yeah. Like not as like,
no, but I mean the players, right. I think contestants. So don't they bring players in that aren't in the all-star game, but are good dunkers?
Well, yeah, exactly. For the dunk competition, like they're not an all-star, but okay. So in that case,
so what I mean is like, imagine with Hardest Shot, if every year you had Shea Weber and Zdeno Chara there, whether they were all-stars or not, or, or with the fastest skaters, actually, so many of the players truly are the best players in the league. McDavid, Barzal, like these guys, for the most part, are pretty much perennial all-stars. So it's not, but I mean, it'd be cool. And then that's a way, of course, to involve the Trevor Zegrases and players that maybe
very good point
are a cut below. That would be an idea. I know there's been discussions actually in the past with the NHL alumni to have the NHL alumni incorporate a little bit more in it, which I think would be cool. I think it's an event that forever needs to be reimagined. It's not that it's broken. It's that, there's no historical precedent to it, if you know what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't really matter that, and this year it was Campbell's conference versus Wells conference, and then it went to the world versus, North America, whatever. Like, I think you got to continue tinkering with the format, doing new things, pushing outside the box, because I think you have to make it fun, honestly, at the end of the day. As I say, we're not really comparing records from like years gone by. Like there's no sanctity to this. You know what I mean? It's not like lengthening the par 4 12th at Augusta National or something. Like, it's not like, changing what is like this historically thing. Of course, the 12th at Augusta National is a par 3, pretty famous one. So I'll correct myself there, but I'm thinking out loud. It's more, I think that you just have to continue shifting the event and obviously bring in celebrities wherever you can, have a party aspect to it. I mean, the guys should be relaxing that weekend. So, I'm actually hopeful in today's world that the All-Star game can have new life. I actually think in a social media universe, I mean, the gifability of it, right? I mean, I think that there's a lot of stuff you can do that actually makes it cooler again. And I think the league is going to try, they're going to incorporate Vegas and the Strip into what they're doing a little bit. And there's still I think that I'm not prejudging that this is going to be bad All-Star weekend by any means. I actually think it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
But I think that they should maybe get away from naming a guy from every team, especially in a 32 team league. Either that or just make bigger All-Star teams. Do you know what I mean? It is 3-on-3. Like, could you not have, you could have 6 defensemen. Like, who's to say you can? Like, I know you at a certain point, maybe you feel like you're diluting the pool because you're bringing so many players. But I mean, with 32 teams, I think that there's a way maybe just to add players that way. And like, why have the divisions be so small?
A few things that I would like to see in the All-Star game. Bring back the draft. So you have Team Matthews versus Team McDavid. And then you have a live show on Sportsnet where both of them announce which players they want to take. And yes, it might get awkward depending on which guys get which guys and whatever, but it's fun for everybody. It's a small 30-minute show. For this year's event specifically, I guess you have to bring Kodak Black. Lean into the memes.
Yes.
Lean into the fun. We all knew it was fun. But to your effect of bringing celebrities, like, you have to make it a thing where celebrities and people want to be there. And if it means you have to bring in a rapper who became a viral sensation for doing something a little weird, maybe you consider doing that. But ultimately, in all seriousness, like, you should have it be an event where celebrities should be there.